Welcome to Le Weekend, the bonus extended podcast episode for France News Brief. In case you missed one of our dailies, we've put together a convenient way to catch up on the stories from the past week in France, plus additional content about something related to culture, art, history, or current events at the end. If you enjoyed our daily updates, you'll find everything you need right here in a seamless recap of the week's most important headlines. Perfect for those who want to catch up in just one episode, Le Weekend is designed to keep you informed and engaged with a lighter touch at the end. Let's dive in. The news for Monday, September 8th. The government of Prime Minister François Bayrou lost the confidence vote by 364 votes against 194 in favor. The Prime Minister must now submit his resignation to the President. Earlier in the day, Bayrou spoke for about 40 minutes before Parliament, committing his government's responsibility in a somber and alarmist tone, as reported by France 24. Marine Le Pen's appeal trial is to be held in January and February 2026. The leader of the French far right is appealing a conviction of embezzlement for which she was banned from running in elections and handed a suspended 4-year prison sentence, as reported by Le Monde. Frédéric Péchier, an anesthesiologist accused of 30 poisonings, went on trial in France. The 53-year-old doctor's criminal trial is set to begin today. According to the investigating judges, whose accusations he has denied, he was the common denominator in a long series of serious adverse events, as reported by Le Monde. Anti-tobacco groups hailed France's decision to ban nicotine pouches published in the official bulletin today. Denounced for their toxicity and addictive nature, particularly for children and adolescents, nicotine sachets, balls, and gum will be banned in France as of March 2026, as reported by RFI. Faced with a growing shortage of blood plasma and a massive dependence on American imports, France is seeking to increase voluntary donations within its borders as a matter of health sovereignty. Blood plasma, the liquid component in blood, is essential for treating many diseases, as reported by France 24. The Eiffel Tower in Paris will celebrate the achievements of 72 women scholars. Gustave Eiffel, who designed France's world-famous monument, had the names of 72 scholars inscribed on the base of the tower in golden letters. All of them were men. Today, Paris City Hall plans to even up the score by adding the names of 72 women who made significant contributions to science, as reported by RFI. This is the news for Tuesday, September 9th. President Emmanuel Macron appointed Sébastien Lecornu as France's new prime minister. One day after François Bayrou lost a vote of confidence, Macron asked Sébastien Lecornu, a longtime loyalist who had served as defense minister since 2022, to form a government. He is the 5th head of government since the start of President Macron's second term, as reported by Le Monde. Paris-based Mistral AI has achieved Europe's largest fundraising round in artificial intelligence to date, securing a 1.7 billion euro, equivalent to $2 billion, and bringing Dutch semiconductor giant ASML on board as a strategic partner in a deal seen as bolstering Europe's drive for technological sovereignty, as reported by RFI. The new CEO of automotive group Stellantis said that the objective to bring an end of thermal cars sales in 2035 is not realistic as it stands. Faced with Chinese competition and stagnating sales of electric vehicles, Antonio Filosa pointed to the risk of rapid decline of the European automotive industry, as reported by Le Figaro. French daily Le Parisien, owned by LVMH, is said to have received expressions of interest from two investors, Czech media giant Daniel Kretinsky's CMI, although Vincent Bolloré's Vivendi appears to be in pole position to acquire the loss-making publication, according to sources cited by Challenges. France will deploy around 80,000 police officers and gendarmes tomorrow in the face of the Block Everything movement on September 10th that is gathering pace on social media. The law enforcement figure is higher than that reached at the peak of the Yellow Vest crisis. Employers fear damage and blockades for businesses without really being able to identify a movement whose contours remain unclear, as reported by Les Echos. At least 9 pigs' heads were found in front of mosques in Paris and the surrounding Île-de-France region this morning. Paris Police Chief Laurent Nunez announced the opening of an investigation, as reported by France 24. This is the news for Wednesday, September 10th. The Block Everything protests swept across France today with scores arrested. Protesters across France obstructed highways, burned barricades, and clashed sporadically with police. Almost 200 people were detained in the capital, as reported by Reuters. France's GDP is expected to grow by a further 0.3% in the third quarter, in line with the previous quarter, according to Banque de France, notably supported by the manufacturing industry, as reported by Le Figaro. China accuses Dior's local subsidiary of illegal data transfer. Chinese authorities said that the Shanghai branch of the French luxury group Dior illegally transferred customers' personal data to its headquarters in France, as reported by Les Echos. France has specified the terms and conditions for displaying the new clothing EcoScore labeling system as of October 1st. Fashion brands will be able to implement the environmental impact labeling on a voluntary basis, as reported by Le Figaro. A knife attack in the southern French city of Antibes left a student lightly injured and a teacher seriously wounded at a horticultural high school. Police confirmed that the assailant, a former student, was taken into custody, as reported by Le Monde. A 400-year-old Rubens painting was uncovered in a Paris mansion. The painting, by the 17th century Flemish master, depicts a crucified Christ, with the auctioneer calling it an extremely rare and incredible discovery. The painting is set to be auctioned off on November 30th, as reported by Le Monde. This is the news for Thursday, September 11th. President Macron said France will deploy 3 jets to help protect Polish airspace. The French president wrote on X that following Russian drone incursions into Poland, he decided to deploy 3 Rafale fighter jets to help protect Polish airspace and Europe's eastern flank alongside NATO allies, as reported by Le Monde. A ban on TikTok for young people under 15 is being considered in France. Today, the Parliamentary Commission of Inquiry into the Psychological Effects of the Social Network TikTok on Minors proposed introducing a ban on social networks for under 15-year-olds, highlighting the danger they pose to young people, as reported by France 24. The pigs' heads found at French mosques were left by foreign nationals. A farmer in Normandy told investigators that 2 people in a vehicle with what appeared to be Serbian number plates bought several pigs' heads from him. The Paris prosecutor's office said the suspects immediately left the country afterwards, as reported by Le Monde. Paris's Notre-Dame broke attendance records 9 months after reopening. The iconic cathedral is now the most visited monument in France. Projections anticipate a total of 12 million to 13 million visitors by December 8th, 1 year after reopening, as reported by Le Monde. The news for Friday, September 12th. France summoned the Russian ambassador after what it characterized as an unacceptable Poland drone raid. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot called Russia's drone strikes over Poland a deliberate strategy to intimidate and test us, as reported by Le Monde. Economists said France is at risk of a credit downgrade as the new prime minister tackles the budget. U.S. ratings agency Fitch, one of the top global institutions gauging the financial solidity of sovereign borrowers, is to deliver its latest assessment of France's creditworthiness later on Friday after Wall Street closes, as reported by RFI. The French Constitutional Council upheld the GAFA tax in a decision issued on Friday, September 12th, at the request of German media group Axel Springer. France's Constitutional Council confirmed the constitutionality of the digital services tax introduced in 2019, as reported by Le Monde. Iran's foreign minister said the prisoner swap deal with France is nearing its final stages. The proposed swap involves an Iranian woman arrested in France in February on charges of promoting terrorism through social media, as reported by France 24. Drugs and alcohol consumption among teenagers under the age of 16 in France has fallen sharply in the past 10 years. France is now below the European average for all indicators of use, according to the European Survey on the Consumption of Addictive Substances, as reported by Le Figaro. You are listening to Le Weekend. And now that you're all caught up with the news from the week of September 8th to 11th, let's dive into the bonus story. Today we're looking at the Eiffel Tower and why it was the news this week. The Eiffel Tower, one of the most iconic monuments in the world and a symbol of Paris and France, is preparing to undertake an historic and symbolic gesture. In September 2025, plans have been announced to inscribe the names of 72 women scholars on the tower. This initiative is aimed to address an alleged historic omission from when the tower was first constructed and inaugurated in 1889. Back then, designer Gustave Eiffel decided to inscribe the names of 72 scientists on the base of the monument. But they all happened to be men. Was this an omission or merely how it was done at the time? And why is it so symbolic? The Eiffel Tower was conceived as France prepared for the Exposition Universelle World Fair of 1889, meant to celebrate the centenary of the French Revolution. The French government organized a competition for designs to create a monumental centerpiece. Gustave Eiffel, a noted engineer, and his team submitted a daring concept for a 300-meter-high iron lattice tower. Construction started in 1887 and took just over 2 years, an astonishing feat for that time. The tower was not without controversy. When first proposed, many Parisians and artists thought it an eyesore, fearing the structure would mar the skyline of the City of Light. Yet, when completed, the tower was an engineering marvel, twice as tall as the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome or the Great Pyramid of Giza. The tower's continued presence on the Paris skyline was far from assured. While it is celebrated today as a marvel of engineering and a defining icon of France itself, the tower's early decades were marked by intense controversy, planned dismantling, and repeated fights for its survival. Understanding when, why, and how the Eiffel Tower was saved reveals much about changing attitudes to innovation, national identity, and public taste in France. Built in just over 2 years, the structure was initially allowed to stand for 20 years as part of Eiffel's agreement with the city of Paris. According to the original contest rules for the exposition, the winning design had to be relatively simple to dismantle, a detail that would loom over the tower's fate as the 1909 deadline approached. Eiffel himself held only a temporary permit for the tower's standing, with ownership reverting to the city and plans in place to take it down at the expiration of this contract. From the moment it was first announced, the Eiffel Tower was divisive. Some 300 French artists, architects, and public figures famously penned a letter protesting its construction, calling it an abomination that would disgrace Paris's skyline. Leading artistic voices like Charles Garnier and Alexandre Dumas compared it to a tragic street lamp and a black blot on the city. For years after its debut, many Parisians resented the physical and symbolic intrusion of industrial modernity into the heart of the classical city. Yet, despite its controversial status, the tower proved a massive draw, attracting crowds during the exhibition and quickly becoming an emblem of Paris for international visitors. The debate over its merits did not subside easily, and the temporary status of the tower meant that as 1909 approached, its demolition was treated as a likely outcome. What changed the tower's fate was a combination of scientific utility and evolving public sentiment. Gustave Eiffel, ever the entrepreneur and visionary, began lobbying to demonstrate the tower's value beyond mere spectacle. He opened private research laboratories in the tower and sought out government and military partnerships. The decisive factor in the tower's reprieve was its value as an experimental platform for pioneering wireless telegraphy, early radio transmission. In the first decade of the 20th century, the tower became an essential base for experimenting with new communication technologies. Its height made it ideal for sending and receiving signals over long distances. By 1910, just as the original permit expired, the Eiffel Tower had become vital for France's military and scientific needs, particularly as a strategic communications platform, and the city resolved to keep it. The tower's scientific utility continued long past the wireless telegraph era. During World War I, its antennas supported radio intelligence, and in World War II, it became a symbol of French resistance. The French famously disabled the tower's lift just before the German occupation so that Hitler would have to climb the stairs if he wished to reach the summit. He reportedly never ascended. Following the wars, the Eiffel Tower's fate was further solidified by new roles in communications, including broadcast radio and later television. Technological advances helped ensure the tower's maintenance and adaptation, as transmitters and antennas were added to its spire, extending its technical relevance into the modern era. Social attitudes towards the Eiffel Tower shifted dramatically over the 20th century. What was once described as an iron monstrosity is now beloved for its engineering beauty and historical significance. In 1964, the French Minister of Cultural Affairs, André Malraux, officially declared the tower a historical monument, granting it protections under French heritage law, irrespective of ownership debates between the municipality and the national government. The debate about heritage status has continued sporadically, most recently concerning long-term conservation, major repairs, and how best to protect the monument for future generations. Oddly enough, the tower even skirted export in the 1960s. In 1967, a proposal to temporarily dismantle and relocate the Eiffel Tower to Montreal for Expo 67 was seriously considered and discussed at the highest levels, but ultimately rejected. This underscores how its survival was never wholly guaranteed, but by the late 20th century, the monument was too enmeshed in Parisian and French identity to be uprooted. Today, the Eiffel Tower undergoes a major painting every 7 years, applying about 60 tons of paint each time. To combat rust and environmental wear, part of the original understanding that the puddle iron structure would need lifelong care. Recent news has focused on the challenges and costs of upkeep, signaling that preservation is both a technical and national responsibility. Numerous enhancements, from new elevator systems to lighting and security upgrades, have ensured that the tower remains both an adored tourist destination and a working piece of French infrastructure, hosting millions of visitors each year. When the tower was inaugurated in May 1889, Gustave Eiffel himself climbed to the top in its opening day, carrying a French tricolor flag. Originally, the names of 72 male scientists, engineers, and mathematicians who contributed to the progress of science and engineering were inscribed in golden letters around the tower's base, serving as a tribute from Eiffel to his predecessors. This new inscription on the Eiffel Tower of female names aims to highlight the cultural contributions women have made to the sciences, often overlooked and erased due to historic biases and the so-called Matilda effect, the systemic suppression and under-recognition of women's scientific achievements. According to the Sorbonne University, the Matilda effect refers to the recurrent denial or minimization of women scientists' contributions to research, their work often being attributed to their male colleagues. It was the American science historian Margaret Rossiter who in 1993 named this the effect Matilda, in homage to Matilda Joslyn Gage, a 19th century American author who fought against all forms of oppression, including intellectual. The Sorbonne University gives the examples of Rosalind Franklin, who discovered the double helix structure of DNA, Jocelyn Bell, the first pulsar, Lisa Meitner, nuclear fission, and Nettie Marie Stevens, sex chromosomes. The selection process to pick the 72 names, led by a special commission chaired by astrophysicist Isabelle Vauglin and evolving experts from the CNRS, the French National Center for Scientific Research, will focus on distinguished female experts who lived from the French Revolution in 1789 up to the present day, ensuring they are deceased and primarily of French nationality. The proposal intends to place the women's names above the original frieze containing the men's names as a symbolic honor and as a correction of a historical injustice. The 72 women scholars will span centuries of scientific discovery and innovation. It also serves as inspiration for future generations of women in STEM, encouraging inclusivity and equal recognition. The Eiffel Tower's survival is a story of adaptability, innovation, and shifting cultural norms. Originally slated for demolition, it was saved first by utility, then by affection. It stands as an indelible symbol of Paris, speaking to the ways that people and nations come to embrace the unexpected beauty and historic resonance of modernity itself. Thank you for listening to Le Weekend, your one-stop destination for everything we covered this past week in France. Catch our daily France News Brief roundups of the main news in France every weekday, wherever you get your podcasts. Stay informed.